Hey church, Wednesday, you got time for a devotional? That's something I've been thinking about since the sermon on Sunday, and talked about that this is an exciting time. And I know sometimes that's like, what? This is not an exciting time, but people are asking questions, and Christians should have answers, and not answers about how much do we stay in or go out, or whether you wear a mask or not, or how much liberty can the government actually take from us. We have the answers to life and death. Like what's our purpose? We have those answers in the life and death and resurrection of Christ. And so the practical question is, how do we embrace these times? How do we embrace these times and have an effect on people for the gospel? If we do have the answers, how do we respond? And I was helped by the introduction to Martin Lloyd-Jones' book on spiritual depression. He says this, it's very practical. He says, the greatest need of the hour is a revived and joyful church. Unhappy Christians are a poor recommendation for the faith. The exuberant joy of the early Christians was one of the most potent factors in the spread of Christianity. If you want the gospel to spread, if you want Christianity to spread the good news of Jesus Christ, exuberant joy, that's what we have. And we see something similar to that in 1 Peter 1, 8 through 9. Peter says, though you have not seen him, you love him. Though you do not see him now, you believe in him and rejoice with joy that is inexpressible and filled with glory, obtaining the outcome of your faith, the salvation of your souls. This is the potent faith of Christianity bound up in inexpressible joy. How do you get that inexpressible joy? Well, just previous in verse 7, as he talks about our faith, Peter says that our faith may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. And though we don't see him, we love him. Though we're not seeing him now, we believe in him, and we have this inexpressible joy. So this faith that culminates in the revelation of Jesus Christ, that's the answer to our inexpressible joy. And I think we can summarize that in two things. Our joy is directly tied to what we anticipate, and it's tied to where our affection is. Anticipation and affection is key to our inexpressible joy. And so let's talk about that for just a second. Our anticipation, you know what anticipation kind of looks like, and you know that it's tied directly to our joy because we know how Monday through Friday goes. And our joy is probably lower on Monday, and then as we anticipate Friday and the weekend and maybe some time off, if you have a typical schedule, then your joy ramps up over the week. You know what anticipating a break or a vacation looks like, and you go through the work, and your joy it starts to rise as that vacation comes closer. Even now, as we look at the struggle and the trials, we anticipate an end where maybe there's a vaccine, the quarantine is lifted, we get to see people face to face, we're giddy about contact again. We know what anticipation is, and our joy is directly tied to what we anticipate. See, if we're focused on the circumstances in the now, that the virus can steal our joy, it's not going to be inexpressible. But even if our joy is in the future vacation where we're sitting on the beach in Maui at sunset, that's not inexpressible joy. That's a great time, but it's not inexpressible, and it's not going to last, because on that plane ride home and we start to anticipate what work or school is going to look like, our joy starts to diminish. Inexpressible joy comes from the revelation of Jesus Christ, where we at one point get to be united with Christ forever. Our joy is directly tied to what we are anticipating. Are you anticipating the return of Christ? Is that your ultimate hope? It's a convicting question, but one that we can begin to think through. If we want to embrace these times, let's look forward to the revelation of Jesus Christ. And the second word that I said is not just our anticipation, but our affection. Where is our affection? Paul says, you haven't seen him, you love him. Though you aren't seeing him now, you believe in him, and that's where this inexpressible joy comes from. Are you excited about eternity? Primarily and precisely because you are going to be with Jesus? Is that where your affection is? I mean, we know what that looks like. We have affection for maybe a best friend or a sibling who lives out of state, and they're coming to visit, and we are excited. We have inexpressible joy because our friend is coming, our brother is coming, and so they come, and we're laughing, we have a great time, and that joy is inexpressible. And time goes fast because our affections are so great. But then also there's times where your spouse's Aunt Gertrude is coming and time crawls, and all of a sudden you have a lot of work to do in the garage, or there's some errands that you really have to catch up on because your affection for Aunt Gertrude isn't the same as your best friend. If our joy is going to be inexpressible, this idea of the revelation of Jesus Christ, our affection for Jesus has to be off the charts. Is that where yours is? And here's the good news. If you treat a good friend like Aunt Gertrude, where they show up and you're like, yeah, I got things to do, I've got errands to run. Eventually your friend catches on and says, you know what, there's some other relationship I should invest in. When you treat Jesus like that, and even now you may be in conviction over this idea, is my affection for Jesus what it should be? When you come back to Jesus again and again and again, he welcomes you with open arms. He doesn't hold grudges. And he says, come back. and we can grow in our relationship and our affection for him. And that simply in prayer. You can't grow in your affection for someone. You can't grow in a relationship with someone whom you don't spend time with. And so that means prayer. That means listening to him through his word. Every time Jesus will welcome you back. And knowing that increases our affection for him. Look, this is an exciting time. We can have an outrageous effect on our world through exuberant, inexpressible joy. That comes through what we anticipate and where our affections are, the revelation of Jesus Christ.